We've often hoped to have Father Jim Martin on 30 Good Minutes, and it's a real pleasure for me to be in New York City today, talking with him and spending some time together. Jim, thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure.
In many of your books and interviews, I have noticed that you seem to take great joy in being a Jesuit. So I wanted to start by asking you, how has the order really embraced your talents as someone who entered with a corporate finance background and has really become one of our best Catholic spiritual writers today?
Well, thanks. I wouldn't be able to do anything without the Jesuits. As you said, I went to business school, the Wharton School of Business, but we really didn't practice a whole lot of writing. I obviously learned how to write in high school and college a little bit, but it really wasn't until I entered the Jesuits that I started writing in earnest. My first piece was on a visit to a refugee camp in Africa, and that sort of took off. And the more I wrote, the more supportive they were. So I'm happy to be doing it, and happy to be doing it for the Society of Jesus, because all of my royalties goes to my religious order. I don't see a penny.
As culture editor for America Magazine, I was wondering if there's any specific cultural trends that you've seen. Is there anything that we may be missing as Catholics or people of faith?
We do a lot of stuff, believe it or not, on the sort of digital revolution, how using Facebook and texting and things like that are affecting how we consume information and how we look at the world. So we do a little bit on that, but we really try to cover things very broadly. We talk about film, television, theater, fine arts, so it's a pretty broad spectrum. But I would say if any one topic comes up frequently or the most, it's this sort of digital revolution and what it's doing to us, and what it's doing to us as believers too. If we're constantly sort of texting and checking our email, does it enable us to have the time to sort of pray and really disconnect a little bit to connect to God in our deeper spiritual lives?
In addition to your writing, you make regular media appearances on the Colbert Report and CNN and NPR. I'd like for you to speak about how you see your role as a priest, bringing a useful perspective to some of those more divisive conversations that tend to happen in the media.
Well, it's a tool for evangelization, basically. I always say that, I'll reach millions of people during a 5-minute hit on the Colbert Show or NPR or BBC, something like that. Many more than I would reach in a homily, right? Now, I do homilies, I celebrate Mass as well, but it's a great way to get the Church's message across, and really it helps the reporter and the Church. It helps the reporter get the story right, and it also helps the Church get the story accurately reported. So I think it's a win-win for both sides.
In 2006, you wrote a wonderful book called Becoming Who You Are, Insights on the True Self from Thomas Merton and Other Saints. How has Merton impacted your spiritual life as a writer?
Well, I always say there's four people that are the most responsible for my being a Jesuit: the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, and Thomas Merton. He'd probably be embarrassed to be put in that company. But his story, Merton was a Trappist monk who was a great writer. He died in 1968. People might know him from his book, The Seven-Story Mountain. His book and his conversion really helped me to understand my vocation as a Jesuit. And he's a kind of avatar for me in terms of writing and religious life, and also the way he writes. He was very self-disclosive. He talked a lot about his own life, and that's something that I like to weave into my own writing. So he's really my hero and kind of my avatar for the good Catholic writer. In
your more recent book, The Jesuit Guide to Almost Everything, A Spirituality for Real Life, how did the practical basis of Ignatius Spirituality guide you in writing that book?
Well, right, as you say, Ignatius is very practical. One of the things I try to do with this book is make what's called Ignatian spirituality, Jesuit spirituality, usable and user-friendly for people. I think there are lots and lots of good books on Jesuit spirituality. Just terrific books. But many of them are written for just Catholics or published just by Catholic publishing houses. And I wanted to really cast the net a little more widely. So the practical aspect is really making it user-friendly for anybody, from the doubtful agnostic to the devout believer. Every moment of our lives is an invitation to meet God. That doesn't mean that God is in this chair, but God is in our interaction. God's in the response that we have when we look outside, as well as in our worship services and in our prayer. So it's a very expansive kind of spirituality. It doesn't say that you can only be spiritual if you're in the walls of a church or if you're a monk in a monastery. It says that the world, in a sense, is your monastery. So it's really looking at every moment as an invitation to experience God.
In the remaining moments that we have, let's take some time to talk about your new book. Why don't you tell us the title and a little bit about the main theme?
Sure. It's called Between Heaven and Mirth, and the subtitle is Why Joy, Humor, and Laughter are at the heart of the religious life. So it's really, it's an encouragement to be joyful, humorous, and laugh as believers.
One of the quotes that jumped out at me, joy, humor, and laughter are spiritual gifts that we ignore at our peril. What do you mean by that?
It means that too many people think religion means being gloomy, basically, and that you should be deadly serious all the time. But as the saying goes, when you're deadly serious, you're probably seriously dead. I mean, faith should lead to joy. That's one point of the book. The second point is that the saints and great spiritual masters use humor in their spiritual lives. And the third point is that laughter is a really essential part of a healthy spiritual life, a healthy any life. So I'm trying to recover the sense of joy that I think is missing in too many religions, Catholicism included.
Couldn't agree more with you on that one. You also said joy has an object, and the object is God.
Yeah, joy is a little different than happiness. We can be happy about a raise, something like that. Joy is a little deeper. While some dictionaries talk about joy as kind of an intense form of happiness, joy has an object, and that object is God. You know, joy is, as I say in the book, happiness in God. And that's why we can be joyful even in very difficult situations.
Father Jim Martin, it's been a joy spending time with you. Thank you for making time for us today. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you. It's been a joy for me too. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.